Welcome back to Chef Monica's Kitchen. Today we are going to make a super classic, a Diane sauce. If you've ever heard of steak Diane, it's kind of like an old supper club classic. You can make this sauce without pretty much any meat, chicken, steak, pork, whatever you like. It's basically a mushroom cream sauce. So I have no idea who Diane was, but she made a mean sauce. So thank you, Diane, wherever you are. Started off with some sliced shallots. If you've ever never seen a shallot, I should say, this is what it looks like. It's like a little teensy baby onion. I like it because it's a little bit milder than regular onions. It's in the alluvium family, the same family as garlic and onions and leeks and all of those. But it cooks a little bit faster and it isn't quite as aggressive tasting. I also have some chopped garlic, about 3 cloves. That was 2 fairly sizable shallots and about 3 cloves of garlic. And about a pound of mushrooms. As I've shown you before, I like to peel my mushrooms. How do I do that? I take the little stem like this, pop it out, and then peel off the exterior. All this does is it cleans the mushroom without having to wash it, which gets it all waterlogged and mushy. And then we'll slice it up just like that. And then let's start with the Diane sauce. So come on over here. In the pan here, I've got a little bit of butter, about a tablespoon of butter, and about a tablespoon of olive oil, which is about what was left in there. We're gonna heat that up, and then we're gonna go ahead and add in our shallots to start, just to get them sauteing a little bit. As I said, they cook quickly, so we're not gonna leave them in there for too long without anything else in the pan. I'll give them a quick little stir. It's not quite heated up as much as I want it to, but it'll get there. And we'll go ahead and add our garlic as well. I don't want the garlic to be in there for more than a minute or so without any liquid or anything else because garlic burns very rapidly, and there's nothing worse than the taste of burnt garlic. Incidentally, do not use the garlic that comes in a jar pre-peeled already. The fact of the peeling in and of itself means it's already going to be deteriorating and the taste of it is already nullified. But they also brine it in like a citric acid solution to preserve it, and it changes the flavor of it and makes it sort of bitter instead of a sweeter flavor. So
if you're not going to have fresh garlic, then powdered garlic powder is better?
Garlic powder is better than the stuff in the jar. Sorry, I know it's convenient. Don't do it. It's very easy to just take a garlic clove and smash the dickens out of it. Plus, it's good for aggression because we're all feeling aggressive right now. Well, I am. I don't know about you. Okay, so the garlic's in there, and that already smells divine. Now we'll add in our sliced mushrooms. And as I said, that's about a pound of mushrooms. Oops. Or you can throw them all over the floor. That works too. We'll make steak Diane a la floor. All right, quickly stir that in, and then we need to season this up. So we're gonna season this with salt. Again, salt will draw out the moisture from your mushrooms, helps them to cook down. Fresh cracked pepper, our herb de Provence or Italian seasoning, whatever you prefer. And I'm gonna use almost a tablespoon or so. Don't be shy with your spices. If you don't put it in there enough, you're not gonna taste them. Tiny pinch of crushed red pepper flakes just to give it a little bit of heat, not too much. Jeff wants more, he can add more later. A little hint of smoked paprika. That's not super classic, but I like the flavor and the color it gives. And then, as I've said many, many, many times, always use freshly grated nutmeg or just nutmeg in general with your mushrooms. So we're gonna zest a bunch of that in there. Classic Italian technique to use that with the mushrooms. Give that a quick stir. And at this point, we will add in some white wine. I have some leftover Pinot Grigio. You could use any kind of white wine you like. Not red wine, white, because I don't want it to change the color of the mushroom.
And not cooking wine.
And not cooking wine. Roughly half a teaspoon or so. Sorry, half a cup, not teaspoon. That's a Julia Child measurement right there. She just puts the whole bottle in. So we're gonna let that cook down on a fairly high heat because I want to render out all of the liquid in there and then cook it to the point where the mushrooms start to brown on the bottom and caramelize, and that will change that flavor to really a like distinct nutty, almost meaty flavor. And I'll show you what that looks like in a sec. Alrighty, so as you can see, these have cooked down, lost tons of volume. If only humans could lose weight as fast as mushrooms can. Wouldn't that be nice? Or spinach for that matter. We'll talk about that on another day. Okay, so these have cooked down and they started to smell very meaty. I'm gonna talk about something called umami in a second, so keep that in your mind. We're gonna add just a little bit of flour, just to thicken the sauce, not too much because these reduce down quite a bit. I just wanna go ahead and toast the flour for about a minute or so just to make sure that you don't have that raw flour taste. And then we will add a little bit of vegetable or chicken stock. This happens to be chicken. And then a little bit of cream. And then I'm gonna add our last two ingredients, which are a little Dijon mustard and Worcestershire sauce. Okay, in case you didn't know, the primary ingredient in the Worcestershire sauce that gives it its sort of zest flavor, it's like boom, is anchovies. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. It doesn't taste fishy because anchovies essentially are extremely salty. So when they cook down, they just provide this sort of meaty, salty flavor. I equate that to something called umami. All of us have various different tastes. We have sweet, sour, salty, and bitter on our tongues. And then the fifth taste, which the Japanese identified, is called umami. The quintessential umami flavor on the planet is bacon. It's sort of this meaty, rich, fatty, coats your tongue flavor. And the Worcestershire sauce, when you're using it in a recipe, is giving it that extra hint of umami to sort of boost up the flavor. So now you know. If you decide that you don't like the idea that it's anchovies, leave it out, but I promise it doesn't
Leave
taste
it in.
It doesn't taste like fish. So go ahead and add in our stock and our cream. Tiny bit, not too much. And then not a lot of Dijon. I'm gonna just make sure this doesn't go splashing everywhere. Maybe a teaspoon or so, which kind of just oozed out there. And then maybe even just like a half a teaspoon of the Worcestershire. Not too much because we don't want it to go overkill. And then the last thing I'm adding is a little bit of freshly chopped parsley. If you don't have it, just leave it out. But it just gives it a little bit of brightness of flavor at the very end. And then we'll let this cook for just a couple of minutes until the sauce really thickens up. And I'm gonna sort of scrape up all those great browned bits on the bottom so that I get all that good flavor in the sauce. And as I said, this is fabulous on steaks of any kind, ribeyes, fillets, whatever, pork of any kind, chicken. It's just a really great sauce. Also would be really good over pasta. If you wanted to use something vegetarian pasta dish, this would be fabulous on that as well. Go home and make it. This also keeps really well. Next 2 or 3 days tastes even better because you have all those flavors get a chance to melt together. See you later, Gator.